I discovered my sister had been lying to me for years and ruined my wedding. Now my parents are taking her side and threatening to cut contact. Growing up, my sister Emma, 26F, and I were inseparable. We shared a room in an Armadas 3-bedroom house, whispered secrets late into the night, and defended each other fiercely at school. Our parents worked long hours to make ends meet, so Emma and I often relied on each other for support and companionship. As we got older, some differences started to emerge. I was more studious and reserved, while Emma was outgoing and spontaneous. Despite these differences, we remained close throughout high school and into college. We even chose to attend the same university, though we pursued different majors. I studied accounting, while Emma chose marketing. It was during our college years that I first noticed Emma's competitive streak emerging. She'd always been driven, but now there was an edge to it. If I got an A on a paper, she'd stay up all night to ensure her next assignment was perfect. When I was elected treasurer of the student council, Emma ran for president and won. At the time, I was proud of her accomplishments and didn't think much of it. After graduation, I landed a job at a respected accounting firm, while Emma took a position at a startup marketing agency. We both moved out of our parents' house, sharing an apartment in the city. It was during this time that I met Jake, 30M, at a work conference. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love of true crime podcasts and terrible puns. Emma was initially supportive of my relationship with Jake. She teased me about my boring accountant boyfriend, but it seemed good-natured. She even helped plan our first anniversary surprise. However, things started to change when Jake and I got serious. As Jake and I discussed moving in together, Emma became more critical. She'd make comments about how I was rushing into things and suggest that Jake might be too good to be true. I brushed off her concerns, attributing them to sisterly protectiveness. When Jake proposed after 2 years of dating, I was overjoyed. Emma's reaction, however, was lukewarm at best. She plastered on a smile and offered congratulations, but I could tell something was off. That night, she got drunk and admitted she was worried about being left behind. I reassured her that getting married wouldn't change our relationship, and I thought that was the end of it. How wrong I was. As wedding planning got underway, Emma's behavior became increasingly erratic. She'd volunteer to help with tasks, then fail to follow through. She'd criticize my choices, from the venue to the menu to the music. When I asked her to be my maid of honor, she accepted with a strange gleam in her eye that I couldn't quite interpret. Things came to a head at my bachelorette party. Emma, as maid of honor, was in charge of planning. She decided on a weekend trip to Las Vegas, despite knowing I'm not much of a party person. The first night, she got extremely drunk and started telling embarrassing stories about me to my friends. When I tried to get her to calm down, she accused me of being no fun and stormed off. The next morning, Emma was nowhere to be found. We spent hours searching for her, only to discover she'd hopped on a plane back home without telling anyone. When I finally reached her by phone, she gave a vague apology and said she wasn't feeling well. I was hurt and confused, but decided to give Emma the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the stress of wedding planning was getting to her, I thought. I hoped things would improve as the big day approached. A week before the wedding, Emma called me in tears. She said her boyfriend, Tom, 27M, had broken up with her. I knew they'd been dating for about a year and seemed happy, so this came as a shock. Emma begged me to postpone the wedding, saying she couldn't bear to attend alone. When I gently explained that wasn't possible, she exploded. She called me selfish and accused me of never caring about her feelings. I was stunned by her outburst. I offered to help her find a date or to have her seated with friends at the reception, but she refused to listen. She hung up on me, and I spent the next few days trying unsuccessfully to reach her. The night before the wedding, I finally managed to get Emma on the phone. She seemed calmer and apologized for her behavior. She promised she'd be there for me on my big day. Relieved, I went to bed feeling hopeful that everything would work out. I woke up on my wedding day to chaos. My phone was flooded with missed calls and texts from the venue and my wedding planner. Someone had broken in overnight and trashed the reception hall. The beautiful centerpieces we'd spent weeks crafting were smashed to pieces. The elegant table linens were torn and stained. Worst of all, someone had poured red wine all over my wedding dress, which had been stored at the venue for final alterations. As I rushed to the venue to survey the damage, my wedding planner pulled me aside. With a grim expression, she showed me security footage from the previous night. The video clearly showed a woman matching Emma's description entering the venue around 2 a.m. The woman stumbled around drunkenly, knocking things over and deliberately pouring wine on my dress. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Part of me wanted to deny it, to find some other explanation. But deep down, I knew it was Emma. The realization that my own sister would do this to me was devastating. We scrambled to salvage what we could, but the damage was too extensive. Jake and I made the difficult decision to cancel the reception. We ended up having a small ceremony in our backyard with just our immediate family and closest friends. Emma didn't show up. In the weeks that followed, Emma made no attempt to contact me. Our parents tried to run interference, saying Emma must have been going through something and that I should forgive her. But I couldn't let it go that easily. The deliberate destruction of my wedding day was too much to ignore. After a month of silence, I finally confronted Emma about the security footage. She vehemently denied everything, claiming she'd been home all night. When I pressed her, she burst into tears and accused me of always trying to make her look bad. She said I was the golden child who got everything handed to me, while she had to struggle for attention. I was shocked by her words. I'd never realized Emma felt that way about me. But her actions were inexcusable, and her refusal to take responsibility only made things worse. I told her I needed space and that our relationship would never be the same. For the past 2 years, Emma and I have barely spoken. We see each other at family events, but our interactions are still a bit uncomfortable. Our parents keep trying to force a reconciliation, but I'm not ready to forgive and forget. Emma has never apologized or admitted what she did. Last month, Emma announced her engagement to a new boyfriend, Mark, 29M. They've only been dating for 6 months, but Emma says he's the one. Our parents are thrilled and have thrown themselves into wedding planning with gusto. Yesterday, I received a save the date for Emma's wedding. As I read it, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The wedding is scheduled for June 15th, the exact same date as my ruined wedding 2 years ago. The invitation was accompanied by a handwritten note from Emma saying she hopes I'll be her maid of honor, as it would mean so much to her. I'm furious. The date can't be a coincidence, and asking me to be maid of honor feels like a slap in the face after everything that happened. I called Emma and told her in no uncertain terms that I won't be attending her wedding, let alone participating in it. She broke down crying, saying I was ruining her special day just like she ruined mine. Our parents are livid. They've been calling nonstop, leaving voicemails about how I'm being petty and need to let the past go. My mom even threatened to cut contact if I don't attend the wedding. She said, "Family is everything, and you're tearing us apart with your stubbornness." Jake supports my decision but worries about the long-term consequences for our family. He suggested we could attend the ceremony but skip the reception, as a compromise. But the thought of watching Emma get married on what should have been my anniversary makes me feel physically ill. I'm standing firm in my decision not to go, but the guilt is starting to creep in. Am I wrong for refusing to attend? Should I suck it up for the sake of family peace? Or stick to my guns and skip the wedding of the sister who ruined mine? Update 1. Thank you all for your supportive comments on my original post. The past few weeks have been incredibly stressful, and I wanted to update you on what's happened since I refused to attend Emma's wedding. A week after I told Emma I wouldn't be coming to her wedding, our parents called a family meeting. They said it was time to clear the air and heal as a family. Against my better judgment, I agreed to attend. Jake offered to come with me for support, but I decided to go alone, hoping it would lead to a more open conversation. The meeting was held at my parents' house, in the same living room where Emma and I had spent countless hours playing as kids. As soon as I walked in, I could feel the tension in the air. Emma was already there, sitting on the couch with puffy, red-rimmed eyes. Our parents sat in their usual chairs, looking grim. What I had hoped would be a calm, rational discussion quickly devolved into an ambush. My parents and Emma ganged up on me, accusing me of being selfish, unforgiving, and trying to ruin Emma's happiness out of spite. Emma cried and said she'd always looked up to me, and my refusal to be part of her wedding was breaking her heart. I tried to defend myself, bringing up the destruction of my wedding and Emma's lack of remorse over the past 2 years. To my shock, my parents dismissed it as water under the bridge and said I needed to grow up and move on. My father even suggested that the damage to my wedding venue might not have been as bad as I remembered, implying that I was exaggerating. Emma, for her part, claimed she had no memory of that night due to being blackout drunk. She suggested that even if she had done it, she wasn't in her right mind and shouldn't be held responsible. This confession of drunkenness was apparently news to our parents, who looked surprised but quickly rallied to Emma's defense. As the argument escalated, old resentments and grievances started bubbling to the surface. Emma accused me of always overshadowing her, of making her feel second best throughout our childhood. She brought up instances I had long forgotten, like the time I won a spelling bee in 4th grade and our parents took us out for ice cream, but Emma claimed all the attention was on me. I countered with examples of how our parents had always babied Emma, excusing her bad behavior and bending over backwards to accommodate her whims. I reminded them of the time Emma threw a tantrum and ruined my high school graduation party because she was jealous of the attention I was getting. The back and forth continued, with our parents ineffectually trying to mediate. Then, in the heat of the moment, Emma blurted out something that made everyone in the room freeze. She said, "At least Mark actually wants to marry me, unlike Tom who was only with me because you rejected him first." The room went silent. I had no idea what she was talking about. Emma's face went pale as she realized what she'd said. Our parents looked confused and uncomfortable. I demanded an explanation. After some prodding, the truth came out. Apparently, Tom, Emma's ex-boyfriend, the one she'd been dating when I got engaged, had originally been interested in me. This was years ago, before I met Jake. Tom had asked Emma to introduce us, but Emma lied and told him I wasn't interested. She then started dating Tom herself. I was stunned. I vaguely remembered meeting Tom at a party once, but I had no idea he'd been interested in me. Emma admitted she'd been jealous and afraid I'd steal him like I stole everything else. She said she genuinely fell for Tom later, but their relationship was always tainted by its beginnings. This revelation put everything in a new light. Emma's resentment, her sabotage of my wedding, her rush to marry Mark, it all stemmed from this lie years ago. I felt betrayed not just by Emma, but by my parents who seemed to think this deception was no big deal. My mother tried to smooth things over, saying, "What's done is done. Can't we all just move forward?" But I couldn't just let it go. I asked Emma if Tom knew the truth, and she admitted she'd never told him. She said they broke up because he could sense she was hiding something, but she couldn't bring herself to confess. I left the meeting feeling numb and overwhelmed. On the drive home, I called Jake and filled him in on everything that had happened. He was furious on my behalf, saying my family's behavior was toxic and manipulative. He suggested we cut ties with them entirely, at least for a while. Part of me wanted to agree with Jake, to wash my hands of the whole mess. But another part of me was mourning the relationship I thought I had with my sister and parents. I found myself revisiting childhood memories, wondering if I had really been as oblivious to Emma's feelings as she claimed. Over the next few days, Emma blew up my phone with tearful voicemails. She alternated between profuse apologies and accusations, saying one minute that she was sorry for everything and the next that I was overreacting. In her latest message, she said she's postponed the wedding and broken up with Mark, realizing she was rushing into marriage for the wrong reasons. Now she's begging me to help her fix things and be sisters again. Our parents have also been calling nonstop. They're pushing me to forgive Emma, saying she's family and didn't mean to hurt anyone. They claim Emma is in a fragile state and needs her big sister's support. My father even suggested that by refusing to reconcile, I'm being just as stubborn and hurtful as Emma was. I'm at a loss. I feel like my entire family history has been rewritten. The sister I thought I knew, the parents I thought had my back, it's all been called into question. I don't know if I can ever trust Emma again, or if I even want to try. Jake thinks we should use this as an opportunity to set firm boundaries with my family. He suggests limiting contact for a while and being very clear about what behavior we will and won't tolerate going forward. It sounds good in theory, but I'm not sure what those boundaries should look like in practice. For now, I've told everyone I need space to process. Jake and I are considering couples therapy to work through this together. I'm also thinking about individual therapy to deal with my own feelings of betrayal and confusion. I'm grateful for Jake's support through all of this. He's been my rock, listening to me vent and offering advice without pushing me one way or the other. We've talked about focusing on our own little family unit, maybe even starting to think about having kids of our own. As for Emma's wedding, I'm still firm in my decision not to attend. Even with the postponement, I can't imagine celebrating her marriage when there's so much unresolved between us. I'm not sure if or when I'll be ready to have a relationship with her again. Thank you all for listening and for your support. Any advice on how to move forward would be greatly appreciated. Update 2: I want to thank everyone for their continued support and advice. The past 2 months have been incredibly challenging, and I'm still trying to make sense of everything that's happened. After my last update, I took some time to reflect on my relationship with Emma and my family. Jake and I decided to try couples therapy, which has been helpful in navigating this situation together. Our therapist suggested I consider meeting with Emma one-on-one, in a neutral location, to have an honest conversation without our parents' interference. After much deliberation, I agreed to meet Emma at a quiet cafe in a nearby town. I was nervous but determined to hear her out. When I arrived, Emma was already there, fidgeting with her coffee cup. She looked tired and anxious, a far cry from her usually polished appearance. We started with small talk, both of us dancing around the real issues. Finally, Emma took a deep breath and apologized for everything: the lie about Tom, ruining my wedding, and her recent behavior. She admitted she'd been in therapy since our family meeting and had realized the extent of her jealousy and resentment towards me. Emma revealed that she'd always felt overshadowed by me growing up. She perceived me as the perfect older sister who excelled at everything, while she struggled to find her place. This led to her competitive nature and need to win at all costs. She talked about specific incidents from our childhood that I had either forgotten or never realized were significant to her. Like the time I won a science fair in middle school, and she overheard our dad telling a neighbor how proud he was of me. Emma said she spent weeks working on her own project for the next fair, only to come in second place. As we talked, I started to see our shared history through Emma's eyes. While I never intended to make her feel less than, I could understand how my achievements might have been difficult for her to live up to. Emma also confessed that she had indeed trashed my wedding venue. She said she'd gotten drunk that night, intending to just talk to me and express her feelings. But when she saw my dress and all the decorations, something in her snapped. The guilt had been eating at her for years, but she was too ashamed to admit it. Hearing her finally take responsibility was both vindicating and heartbreaking. As for the rushed engagement to Mark, Emma admitted it was largely motivated by a desire to beat me to a successful marriage. She realized how toxic this mindset was and ended things with Mark for both their sakes. She said she's focusing on herself now, trying to build a life that isn't defined by competing with me. While I appreciated Emma's honesty, I made it clear that her apology didn't automatically fix everything. Trust takes time to rebuild, and some of her actions had caused lasting damage to our relationship. I told her I wasn't ready to jump back into being close sisters, but I was willing to work on rebuilding our relationship slowly. We agreed to take things slow, starting with occasional text check-ins and maybe meeting for coffee once a month. Emma seemed to understand and respect my need for boundaries. However, just as things were starting to look up with Emma, a new issue arose with our parents. Last week, they announced they were planning a vow renewal ceremony, on the same date as my ruined wedding. When I expressed my hurt and disbelief, they claimed they forgot about the significance of the date. They insisted it was the only day that worked with their schedules and the venue they wanted. My mother said, "We can't put our lives on hold because of one bad day 2 years ago." I tried to explain how hurtful this was, but they brushed off my concerns. They said I was being overly sensitive and should be happy for them. My father even suggested that this could be a way to reclaim the date and make new, positive memories. I'm at a loss. Just when I thought we were making progress as a family, this feels like 2 steps back. Emma, surprisingly, took my side and told our parents they were being insensitive. This led to a huge argument, with our parents accusing Emma of choosing sides and abandoning family loyalty. Now Emma and I find ourselves in the strange position of being united against our parents' behavior. It's a weird silver lining to this whole mess, but I'm cautiously optimistic about rebuilding my relationship with my sister. As for our parents, I'm not sure how to proceed. Their dismissal of my feelings and Emma's past actions makes me question whether they truly have our best interests at heart. It seems like they're more concerned with maintaining the appearance of a perfect family than actually addressing our issues. Jake thinks we should skip the vow renewal entirely and use it as an opportunity to set firm boundaries with my parents. He suggests writing them a letter explaining why their choice of date is hurtful and that we won't be attending. Part of me agrees, but another part feels guilty about missing such a significant event. I'm torn between maintaining the fragile peace we've established and standing up for myself. I don't want to cause more drama, but I also don't want to send the message that it's okay to disregard my feelings. Emma has offered to talk to our parents again, but I'm not sure if that will help or just make things worse. She's still working on her own issues and I don't want to put her in the middle. I've considered suggesting an alternative date for the vow renewal, but I'm worried that might come across as controlling. Plus, I'm not sure I trust them to actually change it even if I did suggest something. Any advice on how to handle this latest development would be greatly appreciated. How do I balance setting boundaries with my parents while still maintaining a relationship with them? Should I attend the vow renewal despite my feelings, or stand my ground and refuse to go? Update 3. It's been half a year since my last update, and I wanted to share how things have progressed with my family situation. A lot has changed, and while not everything is perfect, I feel like we've made some real progress. After much deliberation, Jake and I decided not to attend my parents' vow renewal ceremony. We sent them a heartfelt letter explaining our reasons, emphasizing that we couldn't celebrate their love on a day that held such painful memories for us. We also expressed hope that we could find a way to honor their marriage at a different time. Our decision wasn't well received initially. My parents were furious, accusing us of being selfish and unsupportive. They went ahead with the ceremony as planned. From what I heard from other family members, they spent a good portion of the event complaining about my absence to anyone who would listen. This behavior was the final straw for me. With the support of my therapist and Jake, I made the difficult decision to go low contact with my parents. We now limit our interactions to major holidays and emergencies. It's been challenging, especially during the first few months, but also freeing in many ways. I was worried about how this decision would affect my rebuilding relationship with Emma, but surprisingly, it's brought us closer. She respected our decision about the vow renewal and even stood up to our parents on our behalf. Emma told them that their behavior was unacceptable and that they needed to take responsibility for their part in the family conflicts. Emma and I have been meeting regularly for coffee, and while things aren't perfect, we're slowly rebuilding trust. She's continued with her therapy and has made significant strides in addressing her jealousy and competitive nature. She recently started a new job that she's passionate about, which seems to have boosted her self-esteem and reduced her need to compare herself to me. We've had some tough conversations about our childhood and the dynamics that led to our estrangement. It hasn't always been easy, but I feel like we're finally starting to understand each other better. Emma has been patient with my need for space and has respected the boundaries I've set. As for Jake and me, we've used this experience to strengthen our own relationship. We've become better at communicating and supporting each other through difficult times. We recently found out we're expecting our first child, which has brought us even closer together. We've decided not to share the pregnancy news with my parents just yet. We're still working on establishing healthy boundaries, and we want to ensure a positive, stress-free environment for our growing family. Emma knows, and she's been wonderfully supportive, even offering to help plan the baby shower. My parents have made some attempts to reconcile over the past few months. They've sent a few emails apologizing for their behavior at the vow renewal and asking to meet. While I appreciate the effort, I'm not ready to fully let them back into my life. I've responded politely but firmly, maintaining the boundaries we've set. Looking back on everything that's happened, I realize that sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. Jake, our future child, Emma, in her new, healthier role in my life, and the close friends who've supported us through this ordeal, they're our true family now. I'm not sure what the future holds for my relationship with my parents. Perhaps someday we'll find a way to have a healthier relationship, but for now, I'm focused on my own little family and the positive relationships in my life. The journey hasn't been easy, and there are still days when I struggle with guilt or doubt. But overall, I feel more at peace than I have in years. I'm learning to prioritize my own well-being and that of my immediate family, even when it means making difficult choices about other relationships. As we prepare for the arrival of our baby, I'm filled with hope for the future. I'm determined to break the cycle of competition and resentment that plagued my relationship with Emma, and to create a loving, supportive environment for our child. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and kind words have been a source of strength during some very tough times. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that healing is possible, but it takes time, effort, and sometimes difficult decisions. I'm grateful for where I am now and cautiously optimistic about what the future holds.